It goes without saying that Bulma is a major part of the Dragon Ball franchise. On top of being one of the first characters introduced in the series, as well as the main cast's resident genius, Bulma has been a constant source of comic relief, especially in terms of her frightening temper. Because of this, we decided to list off some of the best moments in which Bulma absolutely lost it throughout Dragon Ball. Shooting Goku. Let's start off with Bulma's first appearance in the franchise, which helped showcase the character's personality in an insane way. Of course, we're talking about the fact that during her first encounter with Goku, Bulma shot him in the face with a gun. Nowadays, Bulma still has a short temper, but her itchy trigger finger was far worse when she was a teenager. Seriously, she got scared by a little kid and then proceeded to take out her gun and shoot him in the head as though it was a perfectly logical thing to do. She's lucky that Goku is durable as heck, or she would have straight up killed some forest-dwelling kid, which could have made for a much darker opening to a series. Sure, Goku attacked and lifted Bulma's car in a rather aggressive way, but that's not really a reason to shoot the guy. Any way you look at it, Bulma's reaction was way overboard, and even if Goku survived all of those shots, she had no idea he could. Meaning she went nuts and was ready to shoot a little child down. While ratted, who decided to give a teenager, especially one as temperamental as Bulma, a gun? That's just asking for something like this to happen. Vegeta's death. Next up, we have a far less comedic and much more emotional moment. Bulma's reaction to Vegeta's death in the Buu Saga. This moment came after Vegeta's heartbreaking, powerful sacrifice where he self-destructed in a failed attempt to kill Buu. As we all know, Vegeta gave up his life in order to make up for the death and destruction he had caused after becoming Majin Vegeta. During his horrible acts at the World Martial Arts Tournament, Bulma was clearly heartbroken and worried about her husband. But the worst was yet to come. Not long after, Goku delivered the news that Vegeta gave his life, and Bulma understandably lost herself to grief. Where Chi-Chi just up and fainted at the news of Gohan's death, Bulma was in hysterics, crying, screaming, and thrashing as she tried to deal with the loss of her husband. Bulma and Vegeta have had an interesting and powerful relationship over the years, and while they have had a rocky start and are still known to argue with each other, it was clear that they loved each other, which is why she had such an explosive reaction to the news. Breaking our hearts as hers was also shattered. Oh, no, now she's got us crying. She just love each other so much. Oh. Goku's visits. Let's fast forward a bit to the end of Dragon Ball Z, especially the epilogue of the series, the Peaceful World Saga. Following the defeat of Buu and a party celebrating a peaceful world, there was a time skip to 10 years later. In this future, Goku met up with Bulma, Vegeta, and his old friends to once again compete in the World Martial Arts Tournament. Sounds like a cute, fun way to end the series, right? Well, yes and no. On top of Goku just up and leaving his friends and family behind to train Oob, it was also made apparent that he didn't visit his friends for 10 years after the Buu Saga. Yeah, Goku just stopped hanging out with his friends and fellow world savers because reasons. It was pretty terrible of him to do, and Bulma was quick to let him have it upon seeing her oldest friend again. In fact, Bulma went off, completely losing it as she berated Goku for never visiting. We can't blame her either, since Goku can teleport directly to people, and thus has no excuse for not visiting. Come on, dude, you don't visit your closest friends, but you'll train some kid you just met? That's just plain inconsiderate, man. Desert Tantrum. Going back to the early days of Dragon Ball, we have what's easily one of Bulma's lowest points in the franchise. Her big old tantrum in the desert. After losing her capsules, thus being forced to walk through the hot desert, Bulma finally had it, breaking down in a temper tantrum befitting the spoiled rich heiress that she was. Seriously, Bulma just stopped walking, started thrashing around on the ground, and screamed about how she couldn't go on any longer without her Dynacaps or a boyfriend in the hot desert. She then promptly fell asleep, her tantrum seemingly using up the last bits of energy. Bulma is much better now than she was as a teenager, so we have to imagine she probably looks back at moments like this with regret and embarrassment. Like, most of us do towards our teenage years. Ooh, boy. The funniest part about this was that had Bulma not gone full desert madness and wasted her energy, she would have got one of her wishes, a boyfriend, since she was asleep during Yamcha's first appearance. Regardless of whether or not this would have actually sped up her and Yamcha's relationship, Bulma still completely lost it after all that desert traveling. The heat and walking driving her to madness in the form of a rather embarrassing temper tantrum. Punching Jaco. As we stated before, Bulma's no stranger to violence, especially when she's angry. Sure, she can't send people through mountains or turn into a Super Saiyan, but Bulma ain't scared of pummeling anyone who ticks her off, and Jaco the Galactic Patrolman has been on the receiving end of Bulma's wrath on a few different occasions. It's mostly because he's a bit of a jerk who more or less is terrible at his job, so we won't say it's not deserved. But there's no denying that whenever Bulma has punched the dude, she had some crazy looks on her face. Perhaps the best example of this came when she and Jaco sent out to find Zuno, an alien who knows everything, and ask him for the location of the final Super Dragon Ball. As they were getting ready to leave, Vegeta told Jaco not to try anything with his wife, to which Jaco laughed. This was just plain rude of Jaco, and Bulma swiftly punished him, looming over him with a scary look on her face before punching him on the head, her anger at his insulting implication making her absolutely lose it. Man, when will Jaco learn not to tick off Bulma? Berating Beerus. The Future Trunks Saga was one of the best parts of Dragon Ball Super, both because of its interesting and, frankly, frightening antagonists, Goku Black and Zamasu, and because of its mysterious story. One of the reasons the plot was so interesting was because it had some cool time travel shenanigans going on, specifically by way of diverging timelines. In fact, this ended up causing Bulma to freak out and yell at a god of destruction. Yes, Bulma got so angry that she wasn't afraid to yell at Beerus, whose literal job description is blow stuff up guy. What caused Bulma to unleash her wrath? A mother's love, of course. After learning that Beerus had destroyed the Zamasu of their timeline, Bulma was convinced that Future Trunks' future would be fixed. Especially since Beerus promised that when a god kills someone, it affects all alternate timelines. However, this did not end up being the case, as when Bulma went to Trunks' timeline, she found that it was still in ruins and still terrorized by Zamasu and Goku Black. Beerus mentioned that he knew that this might happen, and Bulma lost it, giving him an earful. In fact, this berating led to Beerus, a literal god, being scared of Bulma. The underwear debacle. Next, we have one of the most infamous examples of Bulma losing it in response to Goku's oblivious childish nature. Of course, we're talking about when Goku removed Bulma's underwear without knowing what he was doing. This eventually led to what would be one of the worst encounters that Bulma had with Master Roshi. You see, upon finding Master Roshi's turtle friend, Goku wanted to return him to his home, and Bulma, not wanting to be left behind, came along while still in her pajamas, not knowing she was underwearless. After returning the turtle to Roshi, the old master rewarded Goku with the flying Nimbus. Bulma wanted a reward too, the Dragon Ball Roshi had around his neck. However, Roshi asked Bulma to show him her underwear, which she begrudgingly agreed to. Later, when she realized she wasn't wearing any underwear, she lost it, getting even angrier when she learned Goku was the one responsible for taking them off. In fact, she was so mad she took out a machine gun and fired directly at Goku. It's not as bad as the first time she shot at him since she now knew that he could take it, but it's still a pretty terrible thing to do, though in all fairness she had every right to be that mad. Goku's impatience. It's been pretty well established that Goku can be kind of an annoying jerk. Well, more accurately, he's oblivious, lacking in social grace, and rarely concerns himself with things outside of fighting and getting stronger. Because of this, he ended up bursting through a door after learning that Vegeta had been training under Whis without him. However, this wasn't what got Bulma riled up. No, that came later. Specifically, Goku wanted to know the next time Whis was going to show up so Bulma could whip up some Earth food so that he could ask to train with him. This led to a sequence of Goku interrupting, scaring, and otherwise bothering Bulma at all hours of the day to see when Whis was showing up. This was taken to an extreme when Goku showed up outside of Bulma's shower, leading her to understandably lose it, punching Goku with a powerful uppercut that lifted him off the ground. If that wasn't enough to prove that Bulma was done with Goku's behavior, she also gave him a smartphone, so she'd let him know when Whis comes, going through the trouble of bringing it to him directly and berating him about annoying her in the process. You know how upset you gotta be to give someone a phone? Beating Beerus. The Future Trunks Saga wasn't the only instance of Bulma getting mad at and going ballistic on Beerus. In fact, she straight up smacked him on his head at one point, which shows how freaking fearless Bulma is when she's mad. This particular instance of Bulma yelling at the Destroyer came in the Universe 6 saga, where Beerus and Bulma were attempting to find the Super Dragon Balls. At one point, Bulma came up with the idea to gather Earth's Dragon Balls and ask Shenron where the final Super Dragon Ball is. To this brilliant idea, Beerus gave an incredibly backhanded compliment to Bulma, saying she was more than just an overbearing nag, as though he wasn't insulting her. In response to this straight-up rude comment, Bulma pretty much lost it and struck the god on the back of his head. Seriously, this had to be a moment of insanity, because immediately after, Bulma looked scared and apologetic, afraid that the Destroyer God would live up to his name. Luckily, he let it slide, but Bulma continued to push her luck when she yelled at him later for humiliating Vegeta. Man, good thing Beerus is totally scared of Bulma, or else she'd be completely vaporized 100 times over. Instant transmission. Finally, we have another instance of Goku causing Bulma to go nuts. This time, however, it wasn't exactly his fault. You see, during the tournament against Universe 6, Goku went a bit overboard in his fight against Hit. Unable to fully compete with Hit's time skip power, Goku pushed his body's limits by combining his Super Saiyan Blue form with the Kaioken power-up. This ended up having some delayed adverse effects, causing him to lose control of his ki. Specifically, he had trouble flying and couldn't use instant transmission properly. This resulted in Goku teleporting to a couple of different places as he attempted to go to King Kai's planet. One of the places that Goku teleported to was Bulma's bedroom after she just got out of a shower. As expected, Bulma lost it, screaming and aiming her security system at him. Bulma, as well as Vegeta, who ran in after she screamed, had every right to get as mad as they did. Especially when Goku made things worse by commenting that he wasn't there to look at Bulma naked since she's not as young as she used to be. Oh boy. Come on, Goku, it's just a plain rude thing to say. You deserve to have security lasers aimed at you. So, there you have it. All the times that Bulma went completely nuts, be it through her temper or other factors. What'd you think? Did these moments make you laugh? Did we leave anything out? Let us know down in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more Dragon Ball videos. Thanks for watching!